None of that would have been possible had I been successful when I attempted to end my life. And I think of my own experience and the many others like it when I reflect on the fact that in just 15 months' time, someone who was in the place that I was in 15 years ago would be able to have not only the state's permission, but the state's help to end their life by suicide.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great honour to rise and speak to Bill C-218. In less than a week, it will be 15 years since I almost lost my life to suicide. I overdosed. I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. For much of it, I was on life support and had to be resuscitated multiple times. Over Christmas, my parents didn't know if they would have me as their son moving forward. It was the culmination in a very dark time in my life that spanned many years. A time in which I felt, at multiple times, not as seriously as I did that horribly dark and sad December day in 2010, that I would be better off dead than alive. I am so proud to be standing here in this chamber for many reasons. But one of them is knowing where I've been and where I came from. And the fact that there was a time in my life where I never would have in a million years believed that I could ever have the life I have now. A career that I'm proud of, an amazing wife whom I love so dearly, these tremendous colleagues and friends I work with every day, this trust that has been placed in me by the people I represent. None of that would have been possible had I been successful when I attempted to end my life. And I think of my own experience and the many others like it when I reflect on the fact that in just 15 months' time, someone who was in the place that I was in 15 years ago would be able to have not only the state's permission, but the state's help to end their life by suicide. In March of 2027, the criteria for medical assistance in dying are expanding, so someone with only a mental illness, with no physical ailment whatsoever, will be eligible for MAID. This is a profound expansion and a fundamental inversion of the message that we have spent so much money and so much airtime and so much effort and energy telling Canadians for years. Through countless campaigns and aimed at ending the stigma surrounding suicide, from more programming and funding and resources to support people with mental illness, through campaigns telling people that you are better off alive, that you do have a future. Efforts that we all extend in our own lives to those around us to give messages of hope to those who need it. And to put a fine point on this, to make it personal, because it is personal. If the laws that were coming into force in 15 months were there 15 years ago, I would probably be dead right now. And I say that with full gratitude that I'm not. I did not want to extend a cry for help. I actually had access to resources and treatment. I had a support system. I had a family who loved me. I had these privileges that so many others who struggle with mental illness did not have. And even with all of those available to me, I felt like there was no future. The proverbial light at the end of the tunnel did not exist. I did not want to get better. It wasn't that I hadn't tried enough, clearly. But I felt like I had done my time. I felt like I had put in enough effort to try to get better, and when I didn't, I had made my decision that I was going to end it. It wasn't impulsive. It was quite rational, actually. I decided it weeks out. Believe it or not, as silly as it sounds, I had it on my calendar. And I scheduled the day because I had appointments and meetings before it that I didn't want to miss. As though that makes any sense at all, as though it would matter if I missed a meeting, given that I was planning on not sticking around. But this is how, when you are struggling with mental illness, as I was, so very seriously, it plays tricks on you. By design, a mental illness is a distortion of your ability to see clearly and think clearly about what you're in the midst of. It clouds your judgment. Now, if I had ever gone to a healthcare worker and said, I am planning to end my life, they would have not just a moral, but a legal obligation to stop me. They would have legal authority to detain me, because that is how sacrosanct we take it, that you have a right to recover, that you have a right to live, and that medical practitioners must do no harm and protect you from harming yourself. We have a duty to help people. And when I talk about my own story, I have heard so many others like it. After my colleague from Cloverdale Langley City introduced her bill, I launched the I Got Better campaign, in which I shared my testimony and invited Canadians to share their own. And I'd like to share some of those in the House today. A lawyer from here in Ottawa said, quote, I wonder if I would have used MAID if it were available when I was in my darkest days, or if I have dark days yet to come. Another man reached out and says he struggles with personal family issues and mental illness. He has very bad days. He has tried attempting suicide before, and he is worried that he will not be stopped in the future if he has more of those dark days and MAID is available to him. On a more positive note, a woman who was in an abusive relationship for 22 years and wanted to die said, quote, if MAID had been around then, I would not be here now, and I am, pardon the unparliamentary language, damn happy it was not. I'm happy now. I have had a fantastic career caring for seniors. I have grandbabies and kids I love. I have a wonderful husband now who means the world to me. Another woman who said she wanted to end her life many times, but looking back, she is so happy she has a life now where she is happier than she ever was before. And I'll share one more. A woman who says, quote, 2 years of agony, damage to my liver, hospitalizations, dozens of failed medications, a compilation of diagnoses without any real clarity, but I was given a second chance. She says she was labeled chronically unstable, told she had a poor prognosis and was unable to thrive independently, and likely will revolve through the system for the rest of her life. She attempted suicide several times. One doctor wouldn't give up on her. As she says, recovery takes one person, not one pill. One person who believes in you and forces uncomfortable treatment onto you for the sake of your future life that's awaiting you. That woman went to university, became a social worker to help others, and is happily married, and more importantly, is happy. None of these stories could ever be guaranteed were we to do what the government is doing in 15 months, to license giving up on people at their most vulnerable moments, at their darkest and lowest points. 90% of suicides come from people who have diagnosable mental illness. Physicians have testified before this very Parliament and its committees that suicide is often contemplated and planned over a long period of time by people who would very easily, as I am confident I would, have gone to a doctor and made a rational, logical case why they have tried all of this treatment. They believe that they are better off dead than alive. There was a consensus among psychiatric experts who have testified and spoken about this elsewhere that there is no clear way to separate suicidal ideation as a symptom from a request of a healthcare practitioner to have their help ending your life. Dr. John Marr testified before Parliament that 7% of those who attempt suicide die by suicide. 7%. Which means that there are 93% of people that at one or multiple points want to end their life, but eventually get over that. The success rate of MAID is 100%. By design, this is a policy that will give up on people. There are very few things in this chamber that we can say are genuinely life and death issues. This is one of them. We already saw a few weeks ago that in 2024, MAID accounted for 5.1% of the deaths in Canada. That is a 1,520% increase over 2016 when it became legal. We are seeing now a massive expansion to people who, in the vast majority of cases, will get better. 50 to 60% of people with mental illness will actually recover with no treatment. Even more for people who do have treatment available. I would not be here today had I been successful. I would not be here today had I not gotten over the darkest, worst feelings of my life that anyone could encounter. And that is something that I believe needs to be understood by those who believe this is an abstract question of legal theory and legal rights. These are real people. There are faces to this. If C-218 does not pass, people will die. And we have a right and a duty to stand up for those who need it. I will be proudly supporting this bill, and I thank so much my colleague for introducing it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Misery. Will they not end their taxes and their hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford Christmas dinner?
One thing standing in the way of its passage, it's the Conservative Party of Canada and the leader of the Conservative Party. Get off their back and get to work.
Shelves now is liberal failure. The food price report confirms what Canadians already know. Food prices are out of control and they're going to get worse. In 2015, when the Liberals took office, the average weekly food bill was about $160. In a decade, it has doubled to $360. That's $17,500 to feed a family of four in Canada. That is unbelievable. And the food price report told Canadians it's going to get worse. The largest increase ever, another $1,000 a year for a family of four. Instead of lowering prices, the Liberals are piling on taxes, making it more expensive to grow food, transport food, and buy the food. Food inflation in Canada is 50% higher than the Liberals' own target. It's rising 48% higher in Canada than it is in the United States. It's time to end the misery. Will they not end their taxes and their hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford Christmas dinner?
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Party of Canada, in particular the leader of the Conservative Party, just doesn't get it.
Nope.
It's about building Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. The budget is there, the support is there for Canadians. And while every Liberal member of Parliament and the Prime Minister is focused on building Canada strong, we get the Conservative Party solely focused on the party's best interest. It's time that they put Canadians' interests first, Mr. Speaker, and that means allowing legislation to pass.
That's right.
Bail reform legislation.
That's right.
Budget legislation.
That's right.
There's only one thing standing in the way of its passage. It's the Conservative Party of Canada and the leader of the Conservative Party. Get off their back and get to work.
Questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, c'est le temps de Noël.
Mr. Speaker, Christmas is around the corner, but the Liberals are already acting like the Grinch. Canadians are the ones who should be unhappy because of grocery costs. They want delicious, affordable food. But according to Dalhousie University, Canadians will have to pay $1,000 more next year for groceries. So it'll be a total of $17,600 a year, and all because of this government's inflationary taxes and deficits. Why is this Liberal government forcing Canadians to feed a big government rather than feeding their families? Mr. Speaker, I know that it's Monday and my colleagues seem happy, yet the Leader of the Opposition seems to be dreaming. He's talking about an imaginary tax. Canadians know better, Mr. Speaker. There's good news in our budget. Our major measure in this budget is a tax break for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. These measures will help Canada grow. We will grow more jobs. We will grow our economy. I hope the Conservatives are going to wake up before Christmas and vote for our budget, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this Christmas, the Prime Minister is the Grinch of the grocery store. Yep. According to Dalhousie University, the cost of groceries will be up $1,000 in 2026 for a total of $17,600 just to feed a family of four. The Liberal Grinch, who brings in an industrial carbon tax on the farm equipment, fertilizer, and food processors. The Liberal Grinch with a food packaging tax. The Liberal Grinch with a $78 billion inflationary deficit. Will he get rid of all of these hidden grocery taxes so Canadians can feed themselves at Christmas?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday and we have good news. Canadians knows it. It's all in the budget, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of good news.
On peut pas lever le livre de cette façon, là.
One can't raise a book like that. It's one thing to read or quote from it, but we can't wave it around.
Speaker, I understand. I think that the budget would be a great Christmas gift, Mr. Speaker, to all Canadians. I would just hope that the Conservative would wake up and make sure that they vote for the budget before Christmas, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our nation. We're going to create jobs. We're going to build housing. We're going to create infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, this is the best gift they can give to Canadians. I just hope they'll do the right thing for them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If they want to combat their own cost of living crisis, the Liberals would focus on approving pipelines that would sell more oil, boost our Canadian dollar so Canadians could buy affordable food and homes. In fact, there was such a pipeline, the Northern Gateway. Liberals killed it in a 2016 cabinet decision, a decision the Prime Minister supported. They further blocked it with a Liberal ban on tanker traffic off the northwest BC coast. The Prime Minister claims to have changed his mind in a recent MOU. So will he be able to change the minds of fellow Liberals and vote for his own MOU and allow a pipeline to the Pacific?
Mr. Speaker, it's a sad day because the Conservatives are divided. The Conservative premiers across this country support this MOU in its entirety. The Leader of the Opposition is seeking to divide this country, and we can see through that cynical tactic.
Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're trying to do. In the spirit of Christmas, I decided to take a great act of generosity and lift the words right out of the Prime Minister's MOU in order to support a pipeline to the Pacific and a repeal or an overriding of the Liberal tanker ban. Now, of course, it would mean Liberals would have to admit they were wrong to block that pipeline. They were wrong about the tanker ban. Will, in the spirit of Christmas, Liberals admit they were wrong, vote for their own wording, approve a pipeline, and get rid of the tanker ban?
At Christmas, I'd invite the Leader of the Opposition not to cherry-pick parts of the MOU, but to support the entire MOU, which is what all of the Conservative premiers across this country are doing, which is what this side is doing. It's how we will build something. Stop being cynical and build this country with us.
Speaker, I think the only division here is that the Prime Minister is divided against himself. The Prime Minister opposed the pipeline to the Pacific. Now he claims he supports it. He supported the tanker ban. Now he claims he opposed it. Mr. Speaker, this is the Prime Minister who said he wanted to keep half of our oil in the ground, and now he pretends to have changed his mind. He signed an MOU. He says one thing in BC, the opposite in Alberta, and here in the House of Commons, he hides under his desk. Why would the Prime Minister stand up, take a position, and announce that he's voting in favor of his MOU language to build a pipeline?
Speaker, the Premier of Alberta supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Saskatchewan supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Ontario supports the entire MOU.
I think the minister is suggesting that there are parts of his own MOU that he does not support. And the MOU says there would be a pipeline to the Pacific. I took the wording right out of the agreement, that there would be an overriding of the tanker ban. I took the wording for that right out of the MOU. And now the Prime Minister is hiding under his desk. Liberal members on one side of the country are saying they're against, while they're pretending in Alberta that they are in favor. So why don't they stand up in the House of Commons, look Canadians in the eye, take one position, vote for a pipe to the Pacific, and override the tanker ban?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and all of us and all Conservative premiers and most people in this country supports every part of that MOU. If the opposition stands in his place and says to the people of Alberta, you know what? That little thing that they said was progress for our province, that made us a leader in renewable technologies, made us a leader in nuclear energy, made us a leader in interties, made us a leader in conventional electricity, that's all off. I just want this one thing.
Speaker, no one expected the verdict to be this tragic when judging the Prime Minister by prices at the grocery store. I heard from an 82-year-old woman who was forced to leave her hometown of Cambridge and her family just to afford groceries and rent. And Lacey, a single mom from Cambridge, told local media she spends her days asking, where's the sale? Clipping coupons and skipping meals just to feed her son. This is the reality for thousands of Canadians. Families are forced to buy whatever they can afford, not what's healthy or good for them, if they eat at all. So when so many families, seniors and working adults are going hungry, how can this government possibly justify any more inflationary times?
Mr. Speaker, that leader's heart was 2 sizes too small when it comes to delivering affordability for Canadians. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time homebuyers. We are continuing to deliver on affordability, school food program, personal service support, tax credit. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're focused on affordability. It's time for that leader to let the light in, let his heart grow, join us in delivering affordability for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Prime Minister told Canadians he would be judged by the cost of groceries. Well, the 60,000 Manitobans who are lined up at food banks each month have judged him. They judged him based on grocery prices that they haven't come down. They judged him because even though they are working multiple jobs, they aren't able to put food on their own tables. They have done everything right, and this Prime Minister has failed them. So the question is very simple. When will these Liberals end their inflationary spending and taxes so Canadians can afford to put food on their own kitchen tables again?
Mr. Speaker, this is a party that voted against targeting the Canada Child benefit to those that needed it the most. This is a party that voted against dental care for seniors. This is a party that voted against the school food program. Mr. Speaker, time and time again, this party has voted against affordability programs. Canadians can judge. Canadians know on this side of the House, we're focused on delivering affordability for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's right. Honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know the truth about that side of the House, and it's that under them, their grocery bills are still going up. What the Liberals have done has made life more expensive, not less. How much worse does it have to get before these Liberals realize that their disastrous tax hikes, packaging standards, and out-of-control spending that is responsible for 60,000 Manitobans now having to rely on food banks each month just to eat? How can these guys live with themselves? Will they take ownership, cut the red tape and the spending, and bring affordability grocery prices back for hungry Canadians?
The Honourable Member from Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Conflict of Interest Act, it is clearly noted that ministerial staff, for example, are not allowed to get any gifts or other benefits. The Journal de Montréal stated this morning that 10 people connected to the Liberal Party of Canada received $1,000 each for services rendered during the last leadership race for the current leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec. Can the Prime Minister finally explain to Quebecers what's all this Liberal flim-flamming about?
La loi sur les conflits d'intérêts? Loi sur les conflits.
The Conflict of Interest Act doesn't apply. Does not apply to the province. This is a federal statute.
Est-ce que quelqu'un veut prendre la question?
Does anyone want to answer that one? The Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, like the member and Canadians know full well, provincial and federal parties are independent from one another.
The Conservative premiers across this country support this MOU in its entirety. Speaker, the Premier of Alberta supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Saskatchewan supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Ontario supports the entire MOU. At Christmas, I'd invite the Leader of the Opposition not to cherry-pick parts of the MOU, but to support the entire MOU, which is what all of the Conservative premiers across this country are doing, which is what this side is doing. It's how we will build something. Stop being cynical and build this country with us.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and all of us and all Conservative premiers and most people in this country supports every part of that MOU.
Canadians can get involved in provincial politics. If someone does so, it's on a personal level.
Oil from being shipped off the northwest coast of BC. All the while we can wave at American tankers that are going from Alaska down to the west coast of the US through the same waters. So why not allow us to ship 1 million barrels of Western Canadian oil off to 2.5 billion Asian customers, giving us a new export market so that the Americans know they cannot monopolize our product and pay us low prices. We need to get rid of the emissions cap, the industrial carbon tax. Right now we have an industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, cement, concrete, fertilizer. Let's get rid of that tax to unlock the production of the most important commodities that form the bones of an economy.
And their hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford Christmas dinner.
One thing standing in the way of this passage is the Conservative Party of Canada and the leader of the Conservative Party. Get off their back ends and get to work.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker.
Too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left buffoonery that's happening all across our land and across the planet sometimes too, and the events that surround it. Though the NAP precedes the question period by about 45 minutes, and we'll cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up. We also keep score, described in the description below. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. I'd like to thank all my followers and subscribers for doing so. Thank you so much for all. It makes it all worthwhile. And please like, thumbs up, share, follow, subscribe, and all that jazz. The chat is up, so please feel free to ask anything. And if you're watching this on repeat, please leave some comments down below. You will get an answer. Comments drive the algorithm when I am not driving the algorithm down with my comments. So if you were watching some of the intro stuff there, you would have noticed some coverage from yesterday in the lower house regarding the MOU, of which they've been discussing this morning, and there's been a motion put forward by the opposition to basically support exact part of the MOU that the whole thing is about. It's very interesting. You know, it's like the whole MOU. Imagine setting up an MOU to build a house, right? I get everyone together on the MOU, right? The bankers, the construction people, I even plan ahead and decide I'm going to be paying the taxes ahead of time for 10 years. I source all my materials. I get all my permits, you know, for that are necessary as much as I can. And then, but the final thing is that the piece of land that I'm buying on, right? Well, apparently there's an oversight authority, right? Whether it's the people that control the ability to sell that land to me, or whether or not I can actually develop on it, right? And then those people are in the MOU as well, right? But us talking to those people, we're not going to do that till the end. Yeah, we're going to get everything else together. We might even plan ahead. You know, we're going to spend all this energy, get all these people involved and all that. And then after a couple of years, you know, of getting this whole house together, getting ready to build it, then I'm going to go up to the person who's going to give me the land and go, no, we're not going to do that. Well, you sign the MOU. I thought, you know, we're all on board. We're going to go through all these processes. And at the very end, you're going to give us the land. He goes, well, no, that's not in the MOU. I still get to decide whether or not you get to build. That's the MOU. So of course they're not going to pass it today. Of course the Liberals are not going to support it. And of course the far left, Bloc Québécois, they're even more radical sometimes when it comes to their green meanie stuff, their anti-human, pro-green everything policies, or even worse than the Green Party sometimes. They bought completely into the climate cult that climate change is something to be feared as opposed to mitigated, and that we must pay some kind of penitence, some carbon tax penitence for our existence sins to save the planet. Well, let's get on with the show and make sure we got the right thing set up here. So right off the bat, let's go transition here. Nope, I don't have my camera. Laptop, where are you? There I am. Okay. Yeah, like we were discussing, the Liberals, including Mark Carney, have declared that they will be voting against the Conservative motion calling on Carney to fulfill his agreement with Daniel Smith made last week. So they've been called on their performative performance, I guess. And yeah, as you know, you just go down in the comment streams to this. Yes, well, that's pretty well, doesn't it? And that was a post by Canada Proud. Now, meanwhile, in the lower house, we can go right into House of Commons here. And we will see. Oh, there's that slimy guy again, Kevin Lamoureaux. Listen to him for a couple of seconds.
Possible. They shouldn't be discouraging industry. They're the only political entity that has a chance to govern here in Canada that's saying no to the industry. No, there's no chance of building a pipeline. It's not like it's back in the Harper days. We can actually get things done. That's the bottom line. You might have a number of MPs that represent Alberta, but they're a disaster, an absolute total disaster in terms of actually getting movement forward on the pipeline issue.
Wow, such gaslighting going on, right? It's like 10 years. 10 years, he's just projecting. 10 years of disaster. They've done nothing. They ended up paying 3 times what industry was actually going to pay for the only pipeline that got built in the last 10 years. And here he is trying to baffle gab everyone into saying that it's the Conservatives that are going to block the pipeline by making sure that everyone agrees that there's going to be a pipeline. You cannot make this 1984 Orwellian authoritarian totalitarian gaslighting up. They are just completely insane. Well, looking at today's order paper, there was a few things that were kind of interesting here. There we go. With regard to the government announcement of a loan that supports for Algoma Steel, are there any conditions or restrictions on executive compensation or management bonus payments contained in any of the agreements with the company? And if so, under what agreements do these restrictions exist? Yes. If you're always like to know what kind of questions the opposition is asking of the government and trying to get this information because they're not offering it easily, order paper. Go down there and they have all these questions that they ask, and the government has to provide them answers. With regards to the government payment by paper check broken down by department or agency or year by check issued, blah, 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 blah. So they like to know where all the money's going. Well, because, again, apparently being the most transparent government ever, 10 years ago, for anybody who remembers, that was kind of like their slogan. The Harper government is hiding everything. We will be the most transparent government ever. Yeah, right. They've been nothing but a shade of black ink across everything. And then it's like pulling teeth to get information from them. With regard to the Canada carbon rebate for small businesses, broken down by year. The rebate's inception, on average, how much funding did businesses receive per employee, broken down by the following ranges, right? So asking this information, this entire carbon tax scam, where's all the money going? Yeah. If it's supposed to go back in to help businesses, which it ain't. And of course, our public statement of the day, always remember that your mainstream media out there is controlled by the federal government through the Qualified Canadian Journalism Organization scheme, whereby they get to fund their employees close to 30 grand a year using your tax money to keep a dying industry alive that refuses to change and refuses to do what the independent media is doing out there, which is just trying to tell the truth. All those parts that they filter out so they give you the manufactured propaganda truth that the government wants you to digest and nothing more. Remember, what happened to all the news that you used to be able to see on Facebook? Where did that go? Oh, that's right, because Facebook wouldn't be bullied by this gangster government into saying, yeah, you want to put your news in our sphere? Well, then you got to pay up. You got to give some money. Get some money, or else you can't put it. And they're like, yeah, you're not the only market out there, and you're a very small market. So piss off, Canada. And that's why you don't have any news on Facebook. Now, CFIA, for our follow-up on the craziness that happened with the ostriches, the CFIA and Canadian government's treatment of universal ostrich farms is one of the most outrageous modern-day power grab for Big Pharma, writes Elizabeth Lane here, who is on Viva Frei for an interview. Where are all the majority rights groups? Their silence is deafening. And then she breaks it all down here. Let's just do a little bit of this interview.
Aspiring tyrant, and we saw that behind every liberal is an aspiring tyrant, and we saw that during COVID. We are now, globalists is an understatement. We have a prime minister who is literally 3 passport carrying, WEF. He's a Bilderberg invitee. Like, people have to appreciate just what a globalist whore Mark Carney is. He's now implementing World Health Organization policy and something called a World Organization of Animal Health stamping out policy as relates to the H5N1 alleged avian flu outbreak, which, do you know how many people have died? Allegedly. Even by their own numbers of H5N1 in the last 5 years, 6 people globally. This is such a panic that they've got to kill any and all poultry that has been infected, any other, wild birds, I think they're doing cattle as well now. And so what ended up happening is that this ostrich farm in Canada called Universal Ostrich Farm, operating out of Edgewood, British Columbia. They used to be open to the public. They used to farm ostriches. COVID hits, they have to shut their doors to the general public. They started getting into research because apparently ostrich eggs are notoriously good for antibodies and things like that. Their ostrich eggs might have contained some antibodies that could have helped with COVID. They were working with a Japanese scientist, 2021, and that's what they were doing for the last 4 or 5 years. Fast forward to December 2024, the ostriches have an outbreak of H5N1. Now, according to the court documents, because that's the juridical fact that we have to operate on, the birds became infected when a flock of infected ducks or whatever flew over, landed in an adjacent pond, and infected the ostrich farm. Within 5 days, before anybody knew what the hell was going on, an anonymous tipster calls this entity called the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Tips them off that the ostriches are infected. The CFIA, it's like a Soviet government body, an administrative body with its own administrative tribunals that comes in and declares that these birds are all infected and they all have to be slaughtered, even the ones that survived the initial outbreak. These ostriches have been in the family for 35 years, some of them. Farm's been around for 3.5 decades. They appeal or they contest the cull order. They go to the federal court. The federal court comes out and says, these administrative bodies, they have expertise. We're the courts, we're the federal courts, but these administrative bodies were created so that, because they've got expertise, we've got to be deferential to their authority, and so we're not getting involved unless it's patently, manifestly unreasonable, abusive of a decision. Federal court says, nope. order is not unreasonable. We're not going to get involved. They appeal that to the Federal Court of Appeal in August. So now you're 8 months out of infection. These birds have been alive, healthy, recovered for 7-8 months now. Federal Court of Appeal unanimously says the same thing. Independent body, the administrative body, deferential to their authority, whatever. They appeal to the Supreme Court, and in the interim, they get an interim protective order to prevent the cull, the slaughter of the birds. But the CFIA comes in and takes custody of the farm and the ostriches. So they come down with their armed jackboots at the RCMP and literally occupy the farm. They literally expropriate the farm from the owners. And for like 40, 50 days, they have custody over these birds, and they're neglecting them. One of the birds dies under the CFIA's custody. And as they're waiting for the Supreme Court to take up the case or not, they start building these kill pens. Literally, it's like 2 bales of hay wide, 4 bales of hay high with perches on the top that snipers are going to use to slaughter these birds. There's 300. There's supposed to be 330, but there's not by the time they kill them all. And so ultimately, there's a 50-day standoff occupation. The birds are not being treated properly because the CFIA doesn't know how to deal with them. We tried to do everything under the sun to get politicians involved. RFK Jr. said, don't kill the birds. They have scientific value. We'll take them. Dr. Oz offered to take them and move them to a ranch in Florida. The Canadian government, because it's bloodlust authoritarian demons, 2 middle fingers to the Trump administration. Supreme Court, on a Thursday a couple weeks ago, 1 paragraph. We're not taking it up, case dismissed. That night, they start slaughtering these birds by firing 900 to 1,000 rounds over the course of 5 hours after they put them in the kill.
Yeah, it's a great reminder on how the entire thing was a typical, very typical liberal shit show. Everything that has happened in Canada for the past 10 years has been a complete accelerated shit show. Every single day, it's like a fire hose of ethics violations and things that they are doing wrong because they know if they just keep it up, you can't keep track of all their violations, ethics violations, anti-human violations, legislative violations. They don't care. They don't care as long as they maintain power. In Ontario, 82% of inmates in jail are on remand, meaning they are legally innocent and waiting trial. It's 82%. 20 years ago, it was more like 30%. What's happening, and why are politicians saying we need to make bail harder to get? Well, we know what's going on. The country has been inundated by unvetted migration, and it's strained the entire system. They did it on purpose. This is how authoritarians work. You have to break the system in order to bring in your own authoritarian system. Now, they changed the name on a bridge in BC and to Stella, whatever this word is, this word right here, they removed the sign. Now, we have 2 official languages in Canada, French and English. And our family left Quebec the first time I was treated like a second-class citizen because they preferred to try to save their French culture by turning other cultures into second-class citizens, basically. So in Quebec, the language laws are a little different, right? You have some languages that are more equal than others in Quebec. Let's just say it that way. But you can still have an English sign as long as 60% of your business is owned outside the province. Other than that, now your signs have to be unilingual. But federally, they still have to provide services in both official languages, and the street signs are still readable. They're still in both official languages, mostly, except for you get a lot of French words on there. But, it's the paradigm. You see something shaped like a stop sign, you know it's a stop sign, even if it says arrête, stop, on it. It's a funny thing, too. In France, all the stop signs there, they don't say arrête. They say stop. And that's how over the edge they went in Quebec. But now, this is like a complete over the edge even more. What is this? And then... Again, if you have an emergency on the bridge and you're trying to call 911, where are you? I'm on the bridge with an unpronounceable name. Help me, please. Well, Rebel News is at it again, digging up more and more information all the time from information requests, stuff that the Liberals would hope would never get out.
The Privy Council office, the Prime Minister's own central bureaucracy, now claims that their documents tied to the Emergencies Act invocation were, quote, transitory. Now, that's their explanation for why records tied to the first ever use of that wartime law against peaceful Canadian citizens have just completely disappeared. Deleted. Did you know that? The federal bureaucracy is literally wiping convoy records while criminal and civil cases are still winding their way through the courts. And they admitted this to us in writing while we were in the middle of appealing several redactions of those same documents. I wish I was making this stuff up. You see, the document we were appealing was submitted as evidence to the Public Order Emergency Commission. This isn't a stray email or an administration memo. It's an official ministerial update containing a situation report from then RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki. It was her assessment of the convoy, her updates to cabinet, her view of the operational reality, her communications loop.
Again, this is exactly on par with what liberals do. They have to hide everything because they know they're acting like criminals. They know they are acting like gangsters, so they have to operate in darkness. Imagine this. So this law that they're using for transitory documents and everything, yes, that applies for notes that you've got. You know, you're scribbling stuff on a notepad, you're keeping notes and stuff, or you've got some other associated notes that you're making before you build an entire document or something. But no, but communications actually during and everything, all these communications, they have to be kept. They're supposed to be on a server somewhere. I don't know, the Canadian Armed Forces, every single use of email because it's all part of the same server, we just different security classifications, different addresses, but we're all basically under the same IT rules, and all our messages, everything that we ever wrote and sent electronically has all been stored and kept somewhere. So if they're going out of their way to destroy notes, to destroy documents, this goes beyond the intent of transitory documents. They're doing it on purpose because they know they're guilty. They know they are guilty. Failed vaccine injury support program, anybody? Here we go to the House of Commons Standing Committee on Access to Information and Privacy and Ethics. Let's just have this little short piece here. Oh, yes, that's right. That's where I want to go. And we're going to start here with a bit of Cooper first.
So you do not have a full list of the 2,000 Brookfield companies?
No.
Okay. So Mark Carney holds stock options and deferred share units in Brookfield potentially worth tens of millions of dollars. The chief operating officer of Brookfield said that in respect of Carney's stock options and deferred share units, quote, as the value of Brookfield increases, the value of those instruments increase. So accordingly, it follows that as Brookfield-owned companies do well, Brookfield does well, and by extension, Mark Carney does well. So if you don't have a full list of the companies, I would put it to you that you are missing potentially a whole long list of conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest that Mr. Carney has with Brookfield companies.
Are you wearing 7 layers?
Now, in his answers, basically what they are saying is that they're not responsible for anything. Like, people have to go to Mr. Finkelstein here. Finkelstein? Yes, that's his name, Finkelstein. People have to go to Finkelstein and say, hey, I think there might be an ethical problem. And then he looks into it. His job is not proactive at all.
It's clear that Mr. Carney's compensation is tied to future compensation is tied to the
employees of the Prime Minister, and they are the only ones who can say to the public whether or not the screen was activated and whether or not they consulted you, because you as an external party are not able to disclose that information. Correct. Well, then how can Canadians trust a screen that is being managed by the direct subordinates of the Prime Minister? Because for Alberta, all of these decisions, Brookfield is there. Same thing for AI and data centers. Nuclear, Brookfield. Pipelines, Brookfield yet again. So Canadians can say, what's going on? And this leads me to my next question. The Prime Minister's direct company is involved, and we can't know whether or not they use the screen? You are focusing on the screen. It is a preventive tool. The Prime Minister must recuse himself. Let me finish. The Prime Minister needs to recuse himself if there is a conflict of interest. In order to help with that, we created the screen, and it is managed by Misters Blanchard and Sabia.
Yeah, so it's all BS. Bravo Sierra. It's a complete scam. We know he's getting rich off the policies that he's implementing. The screen is an entire scam. And they're not proactively doing anything to stop it. And he's saying, oh, well, he should come forward. He knows. He's already been caught. And he's not coming forward. He's already been caught lying multiple times. Even even his verbal comments in public about promoting Westinghouse, which is a company that he is actively invested in, that he knows he's invested in. He should not be promoting them, but he is. You know, there's only one way to be sure that you're ethical in government when it comes to dealing with businesses out there, and that is to either get rid of your entire stock portfolio and just have property and other unknown investments that you have no control over whatsoever. But if you know what's in your portfolio, then you know what you're doing is going to make that money even richer for you. Let's go to this. Tory MP has to challenge twice based on the chair who lets 4 MPs filibuster. So this, I've accelerated this a little faster, though. It's just an example of how ridiculous the Liberals are. They have no experience. They have no idea how to run anything. I don't know if they're just partying all the time in the background. They're not actually doing their jobs. I mean, the person running this committee chair has been in committee before. She's been in Parliament for years, and she still doesn't know how a committee runs. I mean, I thought they did a little committee training course or something before they allowed them to be a chair or a deputy chair.
That we need these investments. So I think his motion is a very important one for these reasons and deserves a discussion here in committee. But I just start off with a couple of comments. First of all, generally speaking, the budget has been well received in Quebec. My colleague, Mr. Turnbull, spoke about the Minister of Finance in Ontario, Minister of Finance in Alberta, and I would add that the Minister of Finance in Quebec also felt.
Yeah. Madam Chair, this is, I think, the fourth Liberal you've gone to without any Conservative. I respectfully, I think the management of the speaking list is not happening in the way it should.
Thank you,
I believe
Mr.
it should be
Dennis.
Mr. Kelly next.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mr. Dennis, I know you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting.
That's not true, actually. I was here from the beginning of the meeting.
No, you weren't.
Yeah,
Mr.
I was in the
Dennis.
back.
No, I saw when you
Anyways,
came
that's
in.
not
well,
the
no,
point,
Mr.
but I
Dennis,
was
I think
here.
what's important is that I'm going based on the hands as they were raised. I appreciate your opinion, but their hands were raised first. When Mr. Kelly raised his hand and said after your intervention that he would like to join this part of the speakers list, I added him, and we have Mr. Letow, Mr. Turnbull, and then Mr. Kelly. So thank you very much for your
Madam Chair, I'm going to challenge that decision of
You
yours.
can't challenge the chair on a point of order. You have to have the floor.
No, you don't have to have a floor to challenge
Thank you,
the chair.
Mr.
That is
Dennis. One
ridiculous.
moment, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so even the other Liberals sitting there, they don't even know how committee works, right? Because they
We'll
think
go
they
straight
can just
to a
bully
vote
their
then.
way and demand anything.
So
on the speakers list.
So, yeah, I need to know what we're voting on, sorry. Makes no sense.
So the vote is on shall the decision of the chair be sustained?
Paying
with regard to
attention
the
has
speakers
never been
list.
Turnbull's strong.
All those in favor, sorry, I will go, sorry about that. I will go roll by name by name. So Mr. Turnbull.
Well, I support the chair. Sustain.
Mr. Letow.
Bien sûr, oui, sustain.
Mr. Sawatsky.
Sustain.
Mr. McDonald.
Sustained.
Right. Mr. Kelly.
The vote is accomplished.
Mr. Williamson.
Watch what happens.
Stevenson, sorry.
No.
Mr. Genuis.
No.
Mr. Lefebvre. And Mr. Saint-Marie.
No.
Okay, so now what happens?
So first of all, there is 4 yeas, 5 nays. If you need to call.
Okay. So the motion is
no, sorry. Yes, the ruling of the chair is.
the ruling of the chair is defeated.
Yes.
Is overruled.
Is overruled.
So now,
Like she's surprised. Like she couldn't even keep track of the count.
He still has the floor.
so yeah, Mr. Letao still has the floor in this instance, right? So sorry, 1 second. Let me just refer with the.
The motion was to let Conservatives speak because the Liberals were filibustering.
Okay, well, at this point, Mr. Letao still has the floor, so I'll allow him to continue, and then Mr. Kelly will be on the list.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Dennis.
The point of the challenge was that Mr. Kelly should have been called on after multiple Liberals already spoke and because he had his hand up. So if I need to challenge the chair again to make clear the will of the committee, I will. I think we just voted on whether Mr. Kelly should have the chair, but if your ruling is that he should not have the chair, then the floor, pardon me, then we can challenge again.
I'm not going to give him the chair.
Yeah, well.
Louise, Mr. Jonas. Anyways, it wasn't clear, I believe, so I think you would have to do that again because as it stands, Mr. Letao still has.
Yeah, so it wasn't clear. It wasn't clear that you're not running the committee in an objective manner when you give special consideration to your Liberal friends to have all the speaking time instead of going back and forth between both sides and allowing them to speak, saying, oh no, I'm going to run it by whoever puts their hand up first. These Liberals, I tell you, they just manipulate everything that they can. So in the end, they can keep their hands in your pockets. Now, a Liberal tax cut gives poorest Canadians just $11 annually. Liberal tax cut gives poorest Canadians just $11 annually. A story here by Juno News, sent out here by Candace Malcolm. And so every time, this is one of these things they keep repeating in Parliament over and over again. It's one of those stories that they have to go back to for their well of answers. Right? Oh, we have a school lunch program, we have the dental program, or we have all the other government benefits that we send out normally. So we're going to take responsibility for that too. Oh, and by the way, we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. Yeah, $11. I thought it was going to be like about $90 annually, but I guess it's just only $11. So compared to the price of eggs, I guess that'll be about a flat of eggs. Yeah, flat of the cheapo, large size, no name brand eggs. That's about it for all your tax increases. Andrew Lawton, MP, following on what's been happening with the Justice Committee, and this is in regards to, again, the hate speech laws that they want to bring in that'll turn Canada into the UK, whereby they will just be able to show up at your house and arrest you without warrant and then cart you off to jail. And the escalation of punishments can actually put you in jail for life for violating their version of hate speech laws. Because it's not about protecting people, it's about full control. All right, so now here goes. The Liberals have called an 8-hour justice meeting, and then apparently they had canceled it down to 2 hours, and then it was back up to. Is it back up? Did I get the right one here? Nope, over here. Nope. Yes, but anyways, it's back up to 8 hours. And Andrew here on the Sean Fraser bringing his work as Minister of Justice the same level of excellence he brought to immigration as housing. It's a good statement too, because every other portfolio he has been in has been an unmitigated disaster, and it's all on purpose. Right? These people were put into these positions to be the disaster, to manage the decline, to make everything worse. Again, so they could bring in their authoritarian, totalitarian legislations. Here's Andrew again. The Liberals, New Democrats, and Bloc Québécois voted down the Conservative amendment to the Budget Implementation Act, calling on the government to deliver an affordable budget, bring down the deficit, and scrap the hidden food taxes, including the industrial carbon tax. Now, of course, every time they're bringing this up in Parliament, the Liberals deny. They deny there's a price on food. They deny there's a tax. Right? They absolutely refuse to acknowledge that if you are going to tax the method of food production, the method of food delivery, the method of storing food, the method of growing food. If you're going to tax all that, then that price will be passed down to the consumer as it has been and as it will increase to be as they continue to increase this ridiculous carbon tax, because you are the carbon they want to remove, not whatever it is that they think they're capturing and then throwing as air into the ground. Remember, $10 million an hour. And that's what the government is costing us in interest debt charges, 13 cents on every dollar collected, because they've added $1 trillion more debt than any other government, all the other governments combined, more debt than all the other governments combined. And it's costing us $10 million an hour just to keep up on interest debt payments. So you get your credit card bill every month. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this? Well, I guess if I could just pay the minimum charge and not let the interest increase more. That's basically what we're doing in Canada right now. And what do we have to show for it? Sweet Foxtrot Alpha. So here's Andrew again. I presented a petition in the House of Commons calling on the Liberals to protect religious freedoms and renounce their agreement with the Bloc that would allow the state to prosecute people of faith for quoting religious texts. And when he presented his petition, along with all the other petitions that were there, the fact is it's got a lot of signatures. Unlike a lot of the other petitions, you get MPs that stand up and present a petition with less than 100 signatures at times. But there it is. Bit by bit, they will slice away your freedom. And we're back to an 8-hour meeting. Good. We'll see if that actually happens. Now, Michael Barrett. Today I asked the Ethics Commissioner about a shocking move by Prime Minister Carney's Liberals. They want the power to exempt themselves from laws like Conflict of Interest Act and Lobbying Act and do it in secret if a minister decides. This is the part in the omnibus bill that they tried to hide, and that the Toronto Star, yes, a QCJO media, even a broken clock is right twice a day, published a story. The Bloc Québécois were all over it. Now everybody knows about it. And when he's asking these questions of Finkelstein, the guy is completely clueless. And you can understand why Carney picked this guy to be his representative, because he's difficult to understand. Kudos to the translators who managed to understand him when he speaks French, because I can barely understand him in English, let alone French, and I'm bilingual enough to understand French. He's hard enough to understand in English. It's almost like you need an English translator to translate his English into English. Maybe that's just me. Maybe as I grow older, my older age, I'm having a hard time understanding people with thicker accents. Maybe that's just a thing that happens when you get older. But this guy's over the top, and he starts commenting on something he knows absolutely nothing about. It's insane.
The effect of their orders is not public. The Liberals' Bill C-15 creates a new power for ministers to exempt companies from federal laws, and this can be done in secret. This opens the door to conflicts of interest that Parliament and your office might never see. If a minister can grant exemptions, and they can be granted to companies that they are connected to, even conceal their orders from public release, won't this at a minimum make it harder to detect that a conflict of interest exists? But doesn't it also create the opportunity for real conflicts of interest to occur with no effective oversight whatsoever?
Just because the minister is authorized by statute to do something doesn't mean he can avoid the conflict of interest to act. If it is part of his function to exempt the company, he can do that. If there, however, is under the Act a conflict of interest, as you suggest in your example, then he has to recuse himself. The Act is quite clear. He cannot participate in the decision. He can't even be in the room. He has to leave and absence himself when that decision is made.
It appears to be a systemic gap that's being created, though, Commissioner. It's a path for ministers to bypass the usual parliamentary safeguards and ethical scrutiny by shifting decisions into private exemption orders. Does that not present a cause for concern for parliamentarians?
I'm not sure I follow you. How, Mr. Barrett? Where is the shifting taking place here?
The effect of their orders is not public, and they can exempt the normal release of information that we would see, and it's for a period of years.
and there would be no detection that it has occurred. So we assume that the minister leaves the room. But oftentimes, we find out only that a breach has occurred because of the release of information, access to information requests, inquiries of ministry, order paper questions, and the like.
When you say the exemption is secret, you mean the Act authorizes the minister to make a decision not to publicize it?
The information does not need to be publicized in the Gazette.
I'm sorry, if the company is exempted, that means if they weren't exempted, they couldn't do this. So presumably, the exemption has to be published somewhere.
One would hope that through the transparency that's required, then yes, but that's not the effect of
as the rest of us when this deal
Implementation Act, Bill C-15. Your question that I've provoked is born out of the same expectation I think that Canadians have about transparency and openness that we expect from government, when instead we're moving off the path of normal government and into exemptions to all laws except the criminal code is what the Act says.
Okay, well, first of all, C-15 is not law yet. It has to be passed by Parliament. Secondly, the obligation not to act in contravention of the conflict of interest is there. The minister cannot make such.
Yeah, so then he goes on and he realizes that he never actually read the Act. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's making these statements that he knows no idea what he's talking about. The minister cannot make such decisions. Yeah, actually they can. And we've seen now, as we talked about at the beginning of the program, that if the government can just arbitrarily decide to start destroying documentation that's going to prove their guilt in cases that are actively going on in court right now, such as the appeal for the implementation of the Emergencies Act by calling them transitory documents, that means that if this bill passes or that part of the bill passes and the ministers just start hiding stuff, well, within that window of 3 to 6 years, when you finally get the document, oh, well, sorry, we destroyed those documents. Yeah, they were transitory. But they would have, it's what we asked for, is that we've been waiting 3 years and this act prevented us from looking at the documents, and only to find out now that you destroyed them. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to do. I mean, why would they bring in that kind of legislation if for any other reason than to hide what it is they're doing? Why? Because they are corrupt. They are the most corrupt government in the history of Canada. They have broken the rules on everything. They have set new highs in corruption for Canada. And Canadians fell for their fear tactics and voted them back in. And they are going to use the same fear tactics. They use them every day in Parliament. And they have their QCJO press using it every single day as well. In the references to Conservatives, constantly comparing them to what they have cultivated in the Canadian psyche as being something to be feared, which is MAGA or Trump, or now, of course, making basically enemies of our largest trading partner, our friends to the south. Canadian Forces members have been training and fighting and with Americans for a long time. When we deployed back in Bosnia, separately, of course, then when we deployed in Afghanistan and they're doing joint operations, we are symbiotically connected with the United States, and it makes sense because they're right there. If we need parts for our industry and we're swapping back and forth, which we do, because they're our neighbor, it makes no sense to go and try to find an ally over across a body of water to replace the largest democracy on the bloody planet right next to us, the largest economic engine right next to us. And what do liberals want to do? Oh, let's distance ourselves from them. No, the whole thing should be keep working on having the best trade deal that you can instead of just walking away, which is what the liberals have done. But then don't stop trying to find other markets. But what they've done is that, oh no, we're going to try to replace American trade with the other markets. As long as they can keep people thinking that Americans are bad by inculcating this hatred in them. Just like a certain group in the 1930s managed to convince their people over in Germany that they needed to hate and it was easy to control them that way. If you get them to hate long enough, and then you can get them to do anything. And there's a reason for it. They're trying to decrease the amount of people that don't respond to their control mechanisms. So the easiest way to do that is to replace the populations with people that are more compliant, which is why we have mass immigration in a lot of the Western nations, slowly trying to replace or at least inundate those countries with people that they know are going to vote for them, because historically, migrants usually always vote for the government that allowed them to come into that country, mostly because they don't come from countries with democracies. So they normally understand that, well, it's the way they've been brought up, that if they look at symbols of authority, that, they have to kowtow to them. It's something that when I was running around in uniform as a Canadian Armed Forces member, people that would come from other countries that were settling in Canada, they would have a different view of the military, because where they came from, the military is something that usually abused them and exploited them. Whereas in Canada, this is not the case, obviously. We have a government for that, to abuse you and exploit you. Well, they are still doing statements by members, as usual, on Tuesday. Yeah, so let's bring up Brian Turnbull here. He's always posts stuff online that basically just repeats the gaslighting that he does in Parliament. Oh, I guess we're starting.
Prime Minister wrote independence on the United States. Canadian vote
middle class carrying it forward. The World Cup. That Canadian.
The Honourable oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific so that we can sell more of our product outside of the United States to other countries, make our economy more independent, strengthen the Canadian dollar, and the purchasing power of all Canadians. The Prime Minister has always been against, but now, last week, he did an about-face in Alberta. But when he came back here, there was a rebellion in his caucus, so I took the words from his agreement. Is he going to vote for those words, or can't we believe his words? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Memorandum of Understanding is not something that you can pick and choose from. The opposition leader chose a few words, but not all the words. He forgot the industrial carbon price, the strengthening of that price. He forgot the methane regulations. He forgot net zero 2050. You have to eat the entire meal, not just the appetizer. Eat the entire meal. Well, that would be great if Canadians could buy a full meal, Mr. Speaker. But he's talking about a carbon tax that continues to apply on equipment for farmers, on fertilizer, on those who deliver foods to our stores. And it's causing food inflation to the point that it now is going to cost $17,000 to feed a family of four for a year. Why not get rid of these taxes on groceries so that Canadians can feed their families? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there is no carbon tax on Canadian farms, which have emissions below 50 kilotons. The impact of the industrial carbon tax on the price of food in Canada, according to the Climate Institute, is about zero.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific to sell $30 billion of our energy overseas, outside of the U.S. market, making us more independent, self-reliant, our dollar, and therefore Canadians' purchasing power stronger. The Prime Minister always opposed the pipeline, which his party killed, but last week he flip-flopped and promised while he was in Alberta in a deal that he would build such a pipeline. So I took the very wording right out of that deal and put it into a motion before the House of Commons. He experienced a massive rebellion in his own caucus, but if he's going to vote against his own words, how can Canadians ever believe his words?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Canadian national cricket team knows, you've got to play the whole T20. It's not just a couple of overs. It's not just the pipeline. It's not just pathways. It is a price on industrial price on carbon that goes to $130 effective. It is reductions in methane. It is net zero 2050. It is building Alberta strong, Canada strong, durable, sustainable, and
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I took the wording for the motion right out of his deal. And if he votes against the motion, he's voting against a pipeline to the Pacific. He's voting against overriding the discriminatory and anti-Canadian ban on shipping our energy abroad. He's voting against consultation with the First Nations people and the British Columbia government, and he's even voting against his own beloved carbon capture and storage, all of which I took word for word right out of his own deal. So if the Prime Minister is only in favor of a pipeline when he's in Alberta, but against when he's in BC and Ottawa, how can Canadians even keep track of where he stands on anything?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome the fact that to my hearing, for the first time ever in this House, the Leader of the Opposition has acknowledged the constitutional right of Indigenous people to full, free, and fair consultation. For the first time, he's ever acknowledged the role of the provinces in these pipelines. But he hasn't acknowledged yet the need for an industrial carbon price or the reduction in methane, two things that the Premier of Alberta acknowledged, signed wholeheartedly as part of a complete meal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, not only do we acknowledge the obligation to consult with our First Peoples, we put that right in the motion. It's right there. It's right there, Mark. It is. We put it right there so that he could vote for the words that he put in the agreement. But let's be honest, he never planned to honor the agreement. He whispered quietly to the Keep It in the Ground Liberal caucus, don't worry, there will never be a pipeline. We'll delay it until after the election, and then, God forbid, if we win, he says he would kill it altogether. Why can't he say one thing to all Canadians and champion the pipeline with us today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the MOU between the Government of Canada and the Province of Alberta is about a pipeline. It is about carbon capture and storage. It is about interties with the clean electricity grid of British Columbia. It's about artificial intelligence data centers. It is about an industrial carbon price that works. It is about methane regulations that get methane down 75% so that we can have the lowest emission, low risk, lowest cost oil in the world and build this country.
The Leader of the Opposition.
We put the interties proposal right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the carbon capture right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the pipeline and the overriding of the oil shipping ban right in the motion. It came right out of the deal that he signed. So now it's clear that the only thing he really cares about is that it doesn't include an industrial carbon tax that will drive jobs out, drive grocery prices up. Why is it that he wants a carbon tax without a pipeline when what we really need is a pipeline without a carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made. Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lifelong member of this House, so I don't know all the rules, but I don't think there's a limit on the size of motions. And in fact, since the MOU is already translated, I think it would be very easy to take the entire MOU in both official languages and propose them if the members opposite would support everything that the Premier of Alberta has done.
That's a very good question.
The honourable member. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we read this morning a letter from the former Minister of the Environment and former Minister of Heritage, and apparently he's not very happy, but still a member of the Liberal caucus, and he has described the setbacks and the problems with the agreement between the Prime Minister of Canada and the Premier of Alberta. What I need to know from the Prime Minister is he going to choose the environment and his own caucus, or is he going to choose the investors in the oil companies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government has chosen Canadians, the future of all Canadians. That means good jobs. That means a sustainable, prosperous economy with major investments in every form of energy and with a future for Quebec that is clean and prosperous. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. The Prime Minister's words are more cute than they are specific. Moving on to the religious exemption, does the Prime Minister agree with his Justice Minister? Or is he not in agreement with his Minister of Justice? Does he agree with the Justice Minister who seems to agree with the Bloc? So what I'd like to know is what is his position, and I think people have a right to understand his personal position. Does the Prime Minister, is he ready to respect religious minorities, or is he going to respect all Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-9, which the member across the way is talking about, it's a bill that is there to protect religions. It's to protect temples, synagogues, churches, mosques. And I know that members of the Justice Committee are currently discussing changes, possible amendments to that law. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. So among the religions to be protected, is there Adil Sharkawi, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we've learned that somebody who's close to the Prime Minister and who's close to the Liberal Party of Canada, we believe that it's just like in the Trudeau era, we've understood that this person has spoken out in favor of the discount drivers, the drivers who are dangerous on our roads. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, is he going to serve the Friends of the Liberal Party, or is he going to serve Canadians and their safety? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, unacceptable words are always unacceptable, and that's clear. That's absolutely clear. We are working and always working to protect truckers. We are always working to protect rights, and that is why the government is tightening the rules for truckers.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of trucks, they take steel. Unlike what the Prime Minister said when he asked a reporter whether he or anybody uses steel anymore in Canada. You know, farm equipment takes steel as well. And farming takes fertilizer. All of these things are taxed by the industrial carbon tax. Sorry I have to give this elementary lesson in the supply chain to the Prime Minister, but it is the reality. And with this tax, food prices have gone up so that Canadians now have to spend $17,000 a year on groceries. Before Christmas, will he get rid of that tax, or will he be the Grinch of the grocery store?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for a fleeting moment there, I thought we were going to get another lecture on wood. We were all bracing ourselves over here for another one of those Leader of the Opposition lectures on wood. I do take his point on steel. Indeed, there is steel in farm equipment. Indeed, Canadian farmers are the best in the world. Indeed, our Minister of Agriculture and the entire government are rallying behind them to support our farmers, to support our steel workers, to support our economy, to build big projects with Alberta, with British Columbia. We're going to keep doing that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yet the Prime Minister is afraid to stand up and debate grocery prices. He says he knows so much about inflation. Well, he's certainly caused a lot in his life, Mr. Speaker. Then he should be able to stand up and defend the very industrial carbon tax that he says is even more important than a pipeline from Alberta. An industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, fertilizer, food processors, at a time when Canadians are paying twice what they were a decade ago for groceries. At Christmas time, will he do the right thing, get rid of this tax so Canadians can eat?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, let me make it really simple for the member opposite. The industrial...
We have to be able to hear the Minister. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
On the top. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apparently, I need to repeat it again and again, so let me do that. To make it simple for the member opposite, the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food. It does not apply to farms. But more than that, if we're going to look at that food price report that he is referring to, perhaps he wants to refer to the other parts of it, which is climate change and weather events have become a growing concern for agricultural producers, and increasingly severe and unpredictable weather events are disrupting agricultural production, creating supply challenges that continue to influence food prices across Canada. They should get on board to fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how high they raise the taxes, they're not going to change the weather, Mr. Speaker. And the Prime Minister should be willing to stand up before Christmas and look the seniors in the eye who can't afford to feed themselves, the single mothers who can't afford to feed their children and buy Christmas gifts this winter, while he not only does an industrial carbon taxes on farmers and fertilizer, but a food packaging tax, which will increase grocery prices by $1 billion across the land. So will the Prime Minister live up to his promise to be judged by the prices of the grocery store and get rid of those hidden Liberal taxes on food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
The Leader of the Opposition has said he doesn't want to do anything about climate change. He wants to talk about imaginary taxes. But when we want to do things for Canadians that are really struggling, as he points out, like, by the way, index in Canada child benefit to inflation, ensure that we have a strong school nutrition program, sign agreements on childcare that are saving families in Ontario $10,400 a year on average, Mr. Speaker, they vote against those supports. So which is it? They don't want to fight climate change. They don't want to stand up for Canadians. What are they doing here?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Stand up for Canadians. The Prime Minister won't even stand up in the House of Commons and answer a question about groceries. She calls, a moment ago, he was bragging about his industrial carbon tax. And now his minister says it's imaginary. So apparently the Prime Minister is imagining things again, Mr. Speaker. How can Canadians keep straight his story on grocery prices where one day he promises to be judged by the price of food, the next day he says we need a more of a tax on food, and his own minister says it's all in his head.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, what I said was it's all in that member's head, that there are no taxes on food, there are no taxes on farms. But rather than look for solutions, Mr. Speaker, they just throw roadblocks in the way of every single Canadian who knows that they need supports in difficult times. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, what Canadians are counting on is a government that will stand with them, that will make sure that when they don't have access to dental care, they can get their teeth fixed. That as a senior ages, their income will be geared to inflation, Mr. Speaker, that the Canada Child Benefit will keep up with the cost of living. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Time and time again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians walk down grocery aisles week after week looking at prices rising to the point where they can no longer afford even to buy beef or put meat and potatoes on their dinner table, they see the Prime Minister who promised that he would be judged by the price at the grocery store, unwilling to even stand up and defend his appalling record of increasing grocery bills by $1,000 for the year to come. It's not just his industrial carbon tax. He's doubled the deficit Trudeau left behind, which will once again stoke inflation. Why is he forcing Canadians to feed his morbidly obese deficit rather than feeding their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that Conservative leader continues to spin the same old rhetoric, we've been focused on cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time homebuyers. We continue to lean in on affordability, school food programs, automatic federal benefits, the list goes on and on. Mr. Speaker, we are laser focused on this side on affordability. That Conservative leader and his party continues to spin the same old tired rhetoric time and time again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I'm glad that member got that off his chest, but the reality is that the question was for the Prime Minister. He's the one who promised to spend less, and yet he doubled the deficit that Justin Trudeau left behind. His deficit is $16 billion bigger than he promised. He's added about $90 billion of net new spending, most of it on governmental operations. And all of this will contribute to the inflation Canadians are paying at the grocery store. So why won't he stand up and take account for the food price inflation he's caused while Canadians struggle to put Christmas dinner on the table?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. We need to work together. The government of Alberta supports this MOU in its entirety. The citizens of Alberta gave our Prime Minister 2 standing ovations in Calgary for this MOU. The only people who are divided on this are the Conservatives. They should get on board and build Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Maybe we should tell that to the Liberal member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, the Liberal member for Vancouver Grenville, the Liberal member for Beaches East York, the Liberal member for Victoria, for Vancouver Quadra, South Surrey White Rock, Honoré Mercier, Fleetwood Port Kells, Laurier Ste. Marie, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, North Vancouver, Capilano. These are all the 11 Liberal MPs who have spoken out against the Prime Minister's deal, and instead of standing up to them, instead of standing up to the Leave It in the Ground Liberal caucus, he's backed down, put them back in charge, and blocked his own pipeline, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, every one of those 11 people, indeed every one of the 170 people on this side of the House who were elected to put Canadians to work, building major projects, building it with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, protecting our workers, protecting those most vulnerable, coming to the aid of families. 170 Liberal members on this side of the House supporting a strong Canada, a compassionate Canada, and we are completely united on all of that, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, we wondered why the Liberals... The honourable member can start from the top. We don't hear very well. So he can go ahead. Mr. Speaker, we were wondering why the Liberals are protecting low-cost drivers by shifting their responsibilities to the provinces. Well, imagine this. One of the Prime Minister's closest organizers, Tej Dulat, works for the companies that hire these drivers. At the Prime Minister's swearing-in ceremony, this generous Liberal donor was even seated right next to him. No risk of confusing him with a lobbyist because he's not even listed in the lobbying registry. He's using his privileged relationship with the Prime Minister to defend discount drivers, even if it means putting lives at risk. Is that why the Liberals aren't doing anything on this file?
Ministre des Transports.
The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, it's this Prime Minister who has called on the CRA to crack down on these discount drivers. It's this Prime Minister who's ordered more inspections to make sure that the Canadian Labour Code is being respected. It's this Prime Minister who's making sure that trucking companies, legitimate trucking companies, can operate in Canada. And that's been recognized in a meeting that I had this morning with who? The Quebec Association of Truckers, who've congratulated the government for everything that has been done by this government. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Quebec Truckers Association also says that there's a lot of things the government can still do to fix this file. When it comes to discount drivers, the Liberals once again appear to be protecting the interests of their friends. Unless it's the interests of their own pockets. Because in addition to the Prime Minister's organizer, who's lobbying unofficially, the Liberals have received $85,000 in donations from people linked to discount drivers. It's extremely worrying to see their inaction when road accidents have gone up by 35% in Quebec in just 1 year. If road safety is really a priority for the Liberals, how is it that the Bloc's 10 requests have not been applied? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, in all the actions that have been taken by the Prime Minister, by the Minister of Finance, by the Labour Minister and the Minister of Transport to crack down on these discount drivers, regime that I would note was created by Mr. Harper, one thing has been missed, and I think that Mr. Plamondon is going to come and reproach the Bloc Québécois because the Bloc is asking for the federal government to interfere in the jurisdiction of the government of Quebec to fix their issues and their problems. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to do that.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister can't be trusted on pipelines. He endorsed Justin Trudeau's cancellation of the approved Northern Gateway pipeline and stopped the shipment of Canadian oil through northern BC. Now he claims he might allow a new pipeline, but his Liberal MPs insist that it will never get built. Instead of playing both sides, the Prime Minister should definitively endorse a new pipeline to Canada's west coast and cancel the Liberal ban on shipping oil from northern BC. Will the Prime Minister finally stop the doublespeak, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for the Conservative motion today?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, for a future pipeline, it means diversifying our trade and greater competitiveness on a global scale. We need to put cards in our hand to fight this trade war. But there are things we need to do to get there. Things like in the Memorandum of Understanding that we can get united behind, like the carbon price. The Conservative motion conveniently ignores strengthening industrial carbon pricing. The leader opposes something that the Premier of Alberta agrees with. We support the entire MOU. We hope they will.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, we'll take no lessons from a minister who conducts Indigenous consultations over Zoom. And we absolutely will oppose a carbon tax in all of its forms, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has said that he told his Keep It in the Ground caucus that the pipeline will never happen, while he promises Albertans that it might. So today he can finally come clean with Canadians and provide crystal clear clarity. He can support our motion, which is based on his MOU, vote to cancel his tanker ban, and greenlight a new pipeline. So why doesn't he get out of the way, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for our Conservative motion?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what you're hearing from member opposite is exactly the problem with this MOU. It discounts several things. One, that in a federation, we work together. We work with provinces, we work with Indigenous communities to make things happen. Getting out of the way is only a strategy if you want to get nothing done. The way to get things done is to work together. And for every single member from British Columbia on the other side of the House, I ask, how can they support a motion that ignores British Columbia and British Columbians completely? They should be ashamed of themselves.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore.
Today is a
monumental day for Canada's energy sector and for my province of Alberta. We will see if the Liberals stand behind their Prime Minister's promise to build a pipeline for Canada, or will he do as his predecessor and submit to his Keep It in the Ground caucus. Families in my riding are worried that this Prime Minister is paying lip service once again and that these are empty words. And it's no surprise as to why, after how this government has destroyed the natural resources sector over the last decade. So will the Liberals stop obstructing a pipeline and vote for our motion? Or will Alberta have its hopes dashed again?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Speaker, I think that honourable member should tell her constituents this, that this government was elected to do big things, that we are focused on making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. We're going to be building bridges, community centres, hospitals, transit, thousands of good-paying jobs, Mr. Speaker, with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, with Canadian skilled trades workers. But the Conservatives voted against every single part of this, Mr. Speaker. Voted against building houses, voted against major projects, voted against opportunities for youth. When will the Conservatives get on board, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, this Prime Minister continues to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He has mastered his predecessor's art of saying one thing in one province and another thing in another. Albertans want the truth. In a pathetic display of misrepresentation, his own Calgary MP couldn't even defend the leading sector and source of livelihood for Calgarians. So will this Prime Minister stand in this House and tell the nation, tell Alberta, tell Calgary, and tell the member for Calgary Confederation that his government will not blame anyone else, not put this on anyone else, and that he will ensure a pipeline is built?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, the MOU is about building Canada strong. The people of Alberta, I was born in Calgary. I talk to Albertans every single day, and they know that our Prime Minister is bringing Canadians together to build big things, to build a stronger economy. Meanwhile, the Conservative leader has spent 20 years in this House, including as a minister, and has built nothing, continues to divide Canadians, continues to play political games. Mr. Speaker, now is not a time to play games. It's time for serious leadership to step up and build Canada strong.
Good answer. The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
The Prime Minister is talking out of both sides of his mouth on pipelines and tanker bans. Behind closed doors, he whispers to the Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus that the pipeline will never be built, while signing an MOU to build one for Canadians. The Liberals say they are for a tanker ban, but then the Prime Minister promised to override it in the MOU. The Prime Minister promises Indigenous communities a seat at the table for a pipeline, but has ignored them for the last 8 months and is cutting them out of the tripartite decision-making table. Wow. Will the Liberals stop obstructing the pipeline by voting for their own MOU?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you. You know, I want to speak to what the Conservative Party claims this motion speaks to. While on one hand, they speak to half the sentence of respecting consultations for Indigenous people, they are also speaking on the other side of their mouth to the jurisprudence that would allow these projects to move forward. So I want to understand, what are they doing? Are they consulting or pushing projects forward? Because that's the concern of Indigenous people. That is what they're bringing to the table. That is what we're looking at when they come and work with us in partnership. And that is the future that they want to decide on with us.
The honourable member for Acadianapolis.
The Prime Minister said he would be judged by. The minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries.
Afraid this would happen. Not from the top, but you may continue.
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries, forestry and agriculture remain at the heart of Nova Scotia's economy. When the Atlantic Economic Panel was announced 2 weeks ago, were representatives from these sectors included? And could the minister tell us how he plans to ensure that these important industries will have a way to contribute to the panel's work?
Great question. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Conservative Shadow Minister for Economic Development in Atlantic Canada for being finally permitted to ask a question about Nova Scotia in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, it speaks volumes about the Conservative Party that since he has joined the government, they are yet to actually replace him and go without a voice from Atlantic Canada representing the economic interests of Atlantic Canada. Yes, we rely on these traditional industries that he cited in his question, but we've appointed a private sector-led panel of business leaders to shoot the path forward on energy, on defense, on clean tech to ensure we have good paying jobs.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
I think it's safe to say after all of that, the Prime Minister regrets telling Canadians that he's going to be judged by the prices at the grocery store.
That's right.
Because these prices are skyrocketing and it's only getting worse. Now 1 in 10 people in Toronto are using a food bank, and even full-time job holders have to use one too. Instead of getting full carts at the grocery store, Canadians get to watch trending TikTok videos about making what they're calling poverty meals. That's out of ramen and hot dogs. So can the Prime Minister seriously say, with a straight face, that this is the standard that he wants Canadians to live under?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Prime Minister is delivering for Canadians, let's take a moment to reflect on the hypocrisy of the members opposite in this House. They voted against meals for children at school. They voted against $800 worth of savings for families through the school food program. They voted against dental care for seniors and for children. And they voted against saving parents thousands of dollars on childcare. If the members opposite want to talk about judgment, Mr. Speaker, they should start by looking at their own record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Is that after a decade in power, let Ottawa feed your kids, they've already admitted their failure after 10 years. Let me put it in context, though, for that minister. The number of people using a food bank in Toronto alone could fill the Rogers Centre 8 times every single month. And with the average grocery bill set to rise by $1,000 next year, the government's $11 a year tax cut to those who need it most isn't going to cut it. So no, we will not vote for it. Instead of giving crumbs back to Canadians, why don't they cut the taxes off of food and let Canadians have a meal at home?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, for starters, there is no tax on food. That's right. We can start there. Canadian families with children under 6 are receiving up to $8,000 a year tax-free per child. This is a program that is tagged to inflation to meet and keep up with the cost of living. Members opposite, year after year, vote against investments like the Canada Child Benefit. It is shameful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Canadians aren't asking for more government programs. They're just asking for the dignity and respect of being able to provide for themselves and their families. Right now, Canadians are struggling more than ever to be able to afford things. And in my riding, I just received a phone call from an elderly gentleman who shared with me that he's now down to 1 meal per day. And he's desperate, and he's without hope. And he's looking at this government and he's saying that they've abandoned him. And so he's looking for an answer. Will the Liberals simply repeat their tired talking points about big government programs and the food school program, or will they actually provide a real solution to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, if you listen to the Conservatives over there, Mr. Speaker, there is no solution. The solution is sink or swim. If you can't afford to feed your family, oh well, too bad. The state's not there to take care of you. But here in Canada, we've always believed in taking care of each other. It's why we're known for our universal health care system around the world. And Mr. Speaker, we've built on that. We make sure that we take care of people who need food. We make sure that families who need extra help get the Canada Child Benefit. We make sure that if you're working poor, you get a working income tax benefit. Because why, Mr. Speaker? We believe that Canada is stronger when it includes all of us.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Again, Canadians are not asking for more government programs or to be spoken to in the manner that that minister just did. They are simply asking to be respected and empowered to be able to provide for themselves. And one of the best ways that this government can do that is by taking unnecessary taxes off of food. According to the latest report, food prices next year are going to go up by about $1,000 more per family. $1,000. There's a woman in my riding who recently reached out to me as she has 4 kids and she relies on the food bank. She feels desperate and without hope. She just wants the dignity of being able to provide for her kids. Well, the Liberals here.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Speaker, I think that you've heard it from this side, and we will keep on saying it. We are there to support Canadians, and you hear about the many programs that they voted against that we are putting in place to support Canadians. But if we're going to rely on that food report, also should look at what it said about, for example, the price of beef, which says nearly a decade of drought in the leading beef-producing area of Canada has resulted in the smallest number of cattle since the late 1980s. Reduced supply and consistent demand creates upward pressure. The cost of food is going up because of climate change. There is no tax on food, but we will be there to provide the programs to help Canadians.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
Here's a resident they're not supporting, Mr. Speaker. He wrote to me and said, quote, I have lived in the same neighborhood for more than a decade, and almost every essential cost of living has increased dramatically. He had the receipts for his groceries from $200 a month to $600 a month. And what did the Prime Minister say? We should judge him by the price of groceries at the store. Well, that's some judgment, Mr. Speaker, some failure. And next year will get worse. Canadians will pay $1,000 or more, according to the Food Price Report. Given those struggles, will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending, scrap the carbon tax, and get rid of the new fuel tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's almost the holidays. Goodwill to all. The opposition leader says, nah, let's circle back next year after my leadership review. Meanwhile, hardworking Canadians wait for a well-earned tax break. They wait for a $50,000 first-time homebuyer's tax cut. Children wait for healthy meals at school. Families and seniors wait for affordable housing. And in addition to that, that member won't even stand up in this House and support the healthcare infrastructure fund that would build a hospital in Durham region that's badly needed for families. He should be ashamed of himself.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic, l'Érable, L'Aude-Binière. The Prime Minister.
It's amazing that he's talking about building a hospital when we are paying $10 million an hour in interest debt charges, which is enough basically to build a hospital per day, practically. At least a hospital per month for sure. The amount of money we are spending on debt interest charges for the $1 trillion in debt that they have added to our lack of treasury that we will never pay off. We could afford all this stuff, but they've just spent more money than all of the prior governments combined. Why do you think everything costs so much? Because they keep printing money, they keep spending money, and they keep increasing taxes. Oh, but they're imaginary taxes.
Sat just across the way made it a personal issue. He told Canadians that he wanted to be judged on the price of groceries. Irrespective of the excuses the Liberals keep repeating in the House today, it was the Prime Minister himself who decided what he wanted to be judged on. Well, not only has he failed miserably to bring prices down, but the bill will increase by another $1,000 next year. Why has the Prime Minister duped Canadians who are increasingly lining up at food banks because of his inflationary spending? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's rather unfortunate to spend so much energy to be elected only just to harp on the same thing over and over again, speaking points from their leader to answer. It's even sadder to see that they vote against the childcare benefits, against the school food program that is saving $800 for the most vulnerable families. They voted against affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. They voted against the dental care system. When he talks about inflationary spending, I would like him to tell us what he even means by that. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable, L'Aude-Binière. Consultants, bureaucracy, all of that. No Liberals has stood up to defend the Prime Minister who said to Canadians, you will judge me on the price of groceries. That is what he said. 36% of Quebecers face food insecurity, 3 million visits per month to food banks in Quebec. The Prime Minister's wealthy friends are certainly not affected by the reality of families skipping meals. They have enough money, they eat their fills. He promised to lower food prices. He misled Canadians. Will he stop his inflationary spending so that families can finally eat their fill, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. In the previous answer, Mr. Speaker, I listed everything against which they voted that supports people in his riding, Quebecers and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We were elected to give opportunities to all Canadians and to all Quebecers, and that's what we're doing. 54,000 jobs created in November, 67,000 in October, 60,000 created in September. Unemployment is going down, inflation is going down, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we are building the strongest G7 economy. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that we needed to judge him on the cost of groceries. 8 months later, the price of food has exploded and families can't feed themselves. The 2026 report forecasts a worsening situation in Saguenay. 70 organizations that offer food assistance confirm that requests have gone up faster than what is available. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending so that Canadians can eat their fill? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize how good my colleagues' local teams are, hockey-wise, but what he doesn't recognize is that no one in the Saguenay is saying, take these programs away. Remove the school food program. We don't like it. Remove support for organizations. We don't like it. Remove support for volunteers. We hate that. Remove the housing benefits. No one is saying that in the Saguenay, Mr. Speaker. The member should vote with us to keep these supports for the people of the Saguenay and elsewhere in our country. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals need to stop burying their heads in the sand, and they need to be aware of what is actually happening on the ground. The majority of requests now come from families where both parents work. We're no longer talking about single parents, and that's alarming. The Canadian Food Report predicts an additional $1,000 per year per family for food, one of the largest increases ever seen in our history. When will the government allow Canadians to finally feed themselves with dignity? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the Minister for Public Services and Procurement, asked a very pertinent question earlier. What is an inflationary expenditure at the end of the day? Month after month, day after day, week after week, in these halls, we're asking, is it supporting aluminium workers? Is it helping kids eat at school? Is it helping people with their dental care? Is that inflationary spending? Is it health transfers to province? What is an inflationary spending? After all of these months, could we finally get a definition of an inflationary spending?
Yeah, he's lying. They've been told several times what it is. And they fucking know what it is.
Father's dying days, he mustered the courage to stand in this chamber to fight for the passage of his private member's bill that set out a vision for the prairie provinces to continue playing their prominent role in our federation. That vision was realized with the passage of the Green Prairie Economy Act, which received royal assent shortly after his passing on December 12, 2022. Can the minister responsible for prairies share how the newly announced Prairie Partnership Initiative enhances this vision and establishes new opportunities for growth across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
I want to thank the member for Winnipeg South Centre for his question and for his continued support as we advance the legacy that his father set in motion for a stronger prairie economy.
Here, here.
The Prairie Partnership Initiative is a new coordinated approach that gives significant prairie projects a clear pathway through the federal system so that they can move from ambition to action. By aligning federal expertise with prairie priorities, the PPI will help meet this critical moment by positioning the prairies at the...
The Honourable Member for Middlesex.
Prime Minister
told Canadians that he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, Canadians have judged, and they're angry. When the Liberals came into office in 2015, the Canadian grocery bill was $159 a week. And after 10 years, it's more than doubled now to $338. Greg from Komoka wrote me to say that he's sick of the rules for you and not for me attitude. Speaker, families can't afford meat and they're lining up at food banks while these Liberals continue to feast at public expense. So why does this Prime Minister think that he deserves luxury while Canadians can't afford lunch?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, watching the leader of the Conservative Party lose in slow motion today has been a little bit amusing, but what's more interesting is watching him do it with a big grin on his face because he's so proud of himself. He's proud to vote against childcare, and he's proud to vote against school food programs, and he's so proud to vote against affordable housing. But what else he's proud of today, he's also proud to call climate change just weather. And he's also proud to refer to Indigenous people with a possessive noun. They're not ours. Mr. Speaker, he seems very proud of himself, but you know what Canadians are proud of? They're proud of our institutions. They're proud of programs that support them, and they're proud of this side on this government. We're supporting them.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex, London.
Are starving, and this member is making fun of things, and I say the Liberals should all be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Bad Liberal policies are what's driving up the cost of food by $1,000 next year. Caitlin from Thames Centre says the government is driving us into systemic destruction at the cost of food, fuel, and groceries soar. Elber from Strathroy asks why the Prime Minister promised cheaper groceries, safer streets, and more homes, but after 7 months, all he's delivered is higher prices, higher crime, and less for hardworking Canadians. So do the Liberals even care that there's over 2.2 million visits to food banks, or are they just here to help Brookfield line the Prime Minister's pockets?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, there's no taxes on groceries. There's no taxes on food. There will never be taxes on groceries, and there will never be taxes on food. And that member's a farmer. She should know better. She should know that the industrial carbon price has absolutely no impact on the cost of groceries, Mr. Speaker. They keep talking about things like the price of coffee. Maybe they should stand up and talk about how industrial carbon pricing in Canada affects the Colombian price of coffee, Mr. Speaker. It's absurd, Mr. Speaker. They're very, very proud to vote against all these programs that support Canadians, but if they could just provide Canadians with one solution to help them at the grocery store over this holiday season. Merry Christmas. Yeah, truly, Merry Christmas.
There you have it. The well-dressed city slicker is going to tell the farmer that the taxes they pay don't exist. That's the Liberals for you.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Guess what, Mr. Speaker? I have a better idea. Come to my food bank. 23,000 visits a month at the Saskatoon Food Bank. And better yet, we have a resurgence of scurvy in northern Saskatchewan. The Canadian Food Price Report confirms additional $1,000 will be needed next year to feed a family of 4. So is the Prime Minister ready to remove the industrial carbon?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's see, what has this tired and old opposition accomplished in the last 10 years? Addressing food affordability, zero achievement. Addressing housing needs, zero achievement. Building major projects, zero achievement. Addressing challenge of tariff, zero achievement. But their negative attitude towards Canada must stop. Because if they don't stop attacking Canada, I'm saying today I'm going to take every single one of them off my Christmas card list.
This guy's almost a bigger clown than Wade Ward. He never answers a question, and he's always insulting.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, last week the President of the Treasury Board held and hosted a co-summit on reduction of the red tape, bringing together the leaders from across the country. Could the President update the House what came out of this summit and how this work will help cut red tape, speed up approvals, and strengthen Canada's economy?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Monsieur le President, I would like to thank my colleague for this excellent question. The summit was an important step forward, building on the 60-day red tape review we launched in July. We recently announced a new series of horizontal reviews. These reviews look across government to eliminate regulatory barriers and deliver faster and more reliable services, so we can grow our economy faster and build Canada strong, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, 8 months later, those prices have skyrocketed. I've heard countless horror stories in Edmonton of families struggling to afford food. I've even heard of single moms selling their furniture online to pay for rent and groceries. Just this week, Miranda from North Edmonton told me, I honestly don't know how people are getting by. It's heat or eat. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending and gas the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Scene.
2025 winds down and we're reviewing our Spotify Wrapped. Let's look at the Conservatives' 2025 Wrapped. In 2025, the Conservatives lost their 4th election in a row, spent Alberta's money on a by-election so they could say they created at least one job, invented imaginary taxes, and presented a platform with no plan to support seniors or families. Mr. Speaker, they need to work on their playlist because they are not listening to the same tunes as Canadians.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
The former Liberal Environment Minister says this government approved a bitumen pipeline that abandons Canada's climate goals and risks BC's coast. In this House, the Prime Minister said British Columbia and impacted First Nations must agree to this project. In BC, the Energy Minister claimed free, prior, and informed consent is required. But the MOU signed between Ottawa and Alberta says no such thing. Liberals are telling one story here, another in BC, and yet another in Alberta. Canadians deserve to know, is consent for this pipeline required or not?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was very clear in this House. He said that the agreement requires agreement from British Columbia, requires the agreement of First Nations. That has been said in this House, and we stand by that right here, right now, and we will continue to.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One section of the enormous Bill C-15, over 600 pages of omnibus budget bill, that's not yet been even mentioned in this place, and it wasn't mentioned in the budget either. So the idea that the Budget Implementation Act just implements things in the budget is belied by pages 301 to 304, with it exempt at ministerial discretion the application of Canadian law to any entity, which could be people or corporations, at the discretion of the minister with no public oversight. Can anyone here, particularly Minister of Finance, explain?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I agree with the member that the budget bill is full of really great measures for this country, but one thing we can all acknowledge is that Canada has world-class innovators and entrepreneurs, those of whom will help us build the strongest economy in the G7. As part of that process, we're reducing red tape to broaden the use of something called regulatory sandboxes to help foster and spur research and development and innovation. We'll do this in a responsible way, in a forward-looking way, and in a temporary way. These will be authorizations that are limited, but these will help us keep up with the speed of innovation in this country. Thank you.
And that concludes question period.
I'd like to inform the House that the volume of earpieces will.
No points of order. That's good. So I'm very happy there that the Green Party actually asked something that's only been talked about in committee and mentioned in social media regarding what they hid in the omnibus bill, which we mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast. And the answer that he gave, I don't buy it. Oh, these are just duels where we can act responsibly. No, no, no. As a government, you don't get to act responsibly without oversight, because that's all this does is hide the oversight from their supposed responsible actions, when in fact they have not been held responsible for many actions over the past 10 years. We still have not seen the SDTC documents that were ordered by the Speaker of the House back in June 2024 that disallowed the Liberals to do any business in the lower house until the election. We still haven't seen those documents. We were hoping to get to see them if the Conservatives won the last election, but no. The El Bozos were confused by the hate propaganda, which, of course, the mainstream media, your quality Canadian journalism organization media, continues to push out there every single day. Well, thank you so much, all of you who tuned in and stayed in to watch. I super appreciate all of you. Please, again, leave comments down below if you're watching this on repeat. Comments drive the algorithm. And if there's any sci-fi nuts out there, we do a Saturday show called Sci-Fi Saturdays. So on our way out, we will just show you a quick intro in the outro, followed by our usual intro outro, and then we will see you tomorrow. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time. And we got the outro there? Yes, we do. Excellent. Bye-bye.
Working. I am programmed to destroy those life forms which are imperfect. Non sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Will they not end their taxes and their hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford Christmas dinner?
One thing standing in the way of this passage is the Conservative Party of Canada and the leader of the Conservative Party. Get off the back end and get to work.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we'll take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker.
Too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.